Have you ever started something important, only to find your mind pulling you in 10 different directions at once? Have you ever sat down to focus on what matters, but within minutes you're thinking about something else, doing something else, going somewhere else? Your mind jumps like a restless bird. One moment here, the next moment there, never staying still long enough to build anything real. If you ever felt like your own mind is working against you, then this story is for you. Because once there was a young man whose mind was so wild, so undisciplined, that it destroyed everything he tried to build, until one old rancher taught him a lesson so simple, yet so powerful, that it changed not just his focus, but his entire future. I'm the Cosmic Sage, and today I'm going to show you why a disciplined mind is more powerful than talent, more valuable than luck, and more reliable than intelligence. Stay with me until the end. But before we ride, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Every single day, I bring you stories that'll teach you how to master yourself, your mind, and your destiny. And if you've been with me, show love with that like button. Drop a comment. Where are you from? What's the one thing your mind keeps pulling you away from? Now let's get into it. The year was 1887, and the town of Clearwater sat in the Montana Territory, where cattle ranches stretched for miles and discipline meant the difference between survival and ruin. Living in that town was a 19-year-old young man named Ezra Cole. Ezra was smart, really smart. He could calculate numbers in his head faster than most men with pencil and paper. He understood cattle breeding, land management, weather patterns. But Ezra had one massive problem that overshadowed all his intelligence. He couldn't focus on anything. His mind was like a wild horse, running in every direction except the one he needed to go. If he started reading a book about ranching techniques, within 10 minutes, he'd be thinking about the card game happening at the saloon. If he tried to help his father repair fences, his mind would wander to the pretty girl he'd seen at church, or the new rifle in the store window, or what he'd have for dinner. His father, Thomas Cole, would watch him start tasks and abandon them halfway through, and he'd shake his head with worry. "Son," he'd say, "your mind is like a wild horse. If you don't break it, train it, discipline it, it will run you straight off a cliff. But if you can master it, it will take you anywhere you want to go." But Ezra never took it seriously. He'd nod, agree, then 5 minutes later his mind would be somewhere else again. Here's the first lesson, friends. Your mind is either your greatest tool or your worst enemy. There is no middle ground. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." Ezra had intelligence. He had potential. He had opportunity. But he didn't have power over his own mind. And without that, all the rest was worthless. Ezra's lack of focus was costing him everything. He'd start projects and never finish them. He'd make promises and forget them. He'd begin learning skills and abandon them when something more interesting appeared. By the time he was 19, people in town had stopped taking him seriously. That's Ezra Cole. Smart kid, but can't stick to anything. All potential, no follow-through. His father was getting older, and the ranch needed a reliable son to take over. But how could Thomas trust a ranch to someone who couldn't even focus long enough to finish mending a fence? One evening, after Ezra had abandoned yet another task, his father made a decision. "Tomorrow, we're riding to see Clayton Marsh." Ezra looked up. The old rancher on the edge of the territory? Yes, he's known for training young men who think they can't be trained. If anyone can help you, it's him. Here's the second lesson. Recognizing you have a problem is painful, but denying you have a problem is fatal. The Greek philosopher Epictetus taught, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Ezra would have to admit to himself that his undisciplined mind was destroying his future. That admission would hurt, but it was necessary. The next day, Ezra and his father rode to Clayton Marsh's ranch. Clayton was in his 60s, weathered face, steady eyes, the kind of man who'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by much. He looked at Ezra and saw immediately what the problem was. You could see it in how the young man's eyes kept darting around, never settling on anything for more than a few seconds. Thomas explained the situation. "Mr. Marsh, my son is intelligent, but he can't focus. His mind wanders constantly. I'm afraid if he doesn't learn discipline, he'll waste his whole life." Clayton nodded slowly. "Leave him with me for 3 days." Ezra's eyes widened. 3 days? 3 days, Clayton repeated. "If you can't give me 3 days of your time, then you've already proven your father right." Ezra felt the sting of that truth. He agreed. His father rode back to town, leaving Ezra alone with the old rancher. Clayton walked to the well and drew up a bucket of water. He poured it into a glass until it was full to the brim. "Hold this," he said, handing it to Ezra. "Don't spill a single drop." Ezra took it carefully. It seemed simple enough. "Now walk around my property. Circle the entire ranch. When you return, we'll talk." It seemed like an odd task, but Ezra started walking. At first, it was easy. He focused on the glass, keeping it steady, but then a horse whinnied in the distance. Ezra's eyes darted toward it. Water sloshed. A hawk screeched overhead. Ezra looked up. More water spilled. He heard laughter from ranch hands working nearby. His attention shifted. The glass tilted. By the time Ezra returned to where Clayton stood, the glass was barely half full. His shirt was damp. His hands were wet. Clayton looked at the glass, then at Ezra. "Why did you spill so much?" Ezra felt embarrassed. "I got distracted. The horse, the hawk, the men working. I kept looking around." Clayton nodded. "This glass is like your goal. The water is your focus. The distractions around you are like the noise of the world. Every time your mind wanders, you lose water. And if you keep getting distracted, you'll reach your destination with nothing left." Ezra felt those words hit deep. Here's the third lesson, friends. Focus isn't about ignoring distractions. It's about training your mind to return to what matters again and again and again. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who became a philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you'll find strength." The distractions will always be there. The hawk will screech. The horse will whinny. The world will demand your attention. But you have the power to bring your mind back to the glass. That's discipline. For 3 days, Clayton put Ezra through a series of tasks. Each one seemed simple, but each one required unwavering focus. On the first day, he had Ezra count every fence post on the ranch, all 247 of them. If Ezra lost count, he had to start over. Ezra lost count 6 times before he finally completed it. On the second day, Clayton had Ezra mend a torn saddle. It required careful stitching, attention to detail, patience. Every time Ezra's mind wandered, the stitching went crooked, he had to undo it and start again. By the end of the day, his fingers were sore, but the saddle was perfect. On the third day, Clayton gave Ezra a horse. Not just any horse. A wild one, barely broken. "This horse is like your mind," Clayton said. "Right now, it goes wherever it wants. Your job is to teach it to go where you want." Ezra spent hours with that horse. At first, it bucked, it ran, it refused to cooperate. But slowly, through patience and consistency, the horse began to respond. It began to trust. It began to obey. By sunset, Ezra was riding it in controlled circles. Clayton watched from the fence. When Ezra dismounted, the old rancher walked over. "What did you learn these 3 days?" Ezra thought for a long moment. "I learned that my mind is like that wild horse. It's powerful, But if I don't train it, it controls me. But if I discipline it, if I bring it back every time it wanders, it becomes the strongest tool I have." Clayton smiled. "You're ready." Here's the fourth lesson. Discipline isn't built in a moment. It's built in 1,000 small decisions of focus when your mind wants to wander. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Ezra had learned that freedom doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from mastering what you want to do. That's real power. Ezra returned home different, not because he'd suddenly become perfect, but because he'd learned how to train his mind. Every morning, he woke at the same time. No exceptions. That trained his mind to expect discipline. When he worked on the ranch, he focused on one task until completion. If his mind wandered, he noticed it and brought it back. Again and again, he limited distractions. No more wandering into town when he should be working. No more letting his mind chase every interesting thought. At first, it was hard. His mind still wanted to run wild. But every time he brought it back, it got a little easier. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And slowly, people in town started noticing. Is that Ezra Cole finishing a project? I've never seen that before. Ezra fixed my wagon wheel and did it perfectly. What happened to him? His father watched with quiet pride as his son transformed from a scattered young man into a focused, disciplined worker. 6 months after returning from Clayton's ranch, an opportunity appeared that would test everything Ezra had learned. The territorial government announced a competition. Young ranchers could submit proposals for a new cattle management system. The winner would receive a contract to implement it across multiple ranches, along with significant payment. It required detailed research, careful planning, precise calculations, and weeks of focused work. The old Ezra would have started it with excitement and abandoned it within days. But the new Ezra, he approached it like Clayton had taught him. One task at a time. When his mind wandered, bring it back. Like holding a glass of water. Like training a wild horse. For 3 weeks, Ezra worked on that proposal every single day. There were moments he wanted to quit. Moments it felt boring. Moments when distractions called to him. But he kept bringing his mind back to the glass. To the goal. To what mattered. Here's the fifth lesson. A disciplined mind will beat talent every single time. Because talent quits when it gets hard. Discipline keeps going. Thomas Edison, the man who invented the light bulb after thousands of failed attempts, said, "Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." Ezra didn't have more talent than other young ranchers, but he had something more valuable. The discipline to focus when others got distracted. When the day came to present the proposals, 12 young ranchers showed up. Some had flashier ideas. Some had more connections. Some had more natural charisma. But when the judges read Ezra's proposal, they were stunned by the level of detail, the clarity of thought, the depth of research. It was the work of someone who'd given it complete, undivided attention. One judge said, "This is the most thorough proposal we've received in 5 years of running this competition." Ezra won, not just a competition, but a contract that would establish his reputation across the territory. At the award ceremony, his father stood in the back with tears in his eyes. Clayton Marsh was there too. He caught Ezra's eye and gave a small nod. That night, Ezra rode back to Clayton's ranch to thank him. "Mr. Marsh, I wouldn't have won without what you taught me." Clayton smiled. "I didn't teach you anything you didn't already have inside you. I just showed you how to harness it." He paused. "Remember, Ezra, that wild horse in your mind will always want to run free. You'll have to train it every single day for the rest of your life. But that's the price of mastery, and it's worth paying." Now, friends, let me bring this truth home to your life right now. Your mind is either your servant or your master. There is no middle ground. Ezra's story isn't just about an Old West rancher. It's about you, right now, today. How many times have you started something important, only to abandon it when your mind got bored? How many times have you sat down to focus, only to find yourself distracted within minutes? How many dreams have you lost because you couldn't hold the glass steady long enough to reach the destination? Let me give you real examples of people who mastered their minds and changed the world. Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest basketball players ever, wasn't the most naturally talented, but he had something others didn't: insane discipline. He practiced at 4 a.m. every single day. While others slept, he trained his mind to focus on one thing: being the best. That discipline made him a legend. J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter while struggling as a single mother. She could let her mind wander to her problems, her poverty, her struggles. Instead, she disciplined her mind to focus on writing. Every day, one page at a time. That focus created a billion-dollar empire. Elon Musk runs multiple companies simultaneously: Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink. How? Not because he has more hours in the day, but because he's mastered his mind. He focuses intensely on one thing, then switches completely to the next. No scattered attention. Complete discipline. The pattern is always the same. Disciplined minds achieve what talented minds dream about. Now, let me make this practical for your life today. Maybe you're trying to build a business, but every time you sit down to work, your mind pulls you to social media, to emails, to 1,000 little distractions. That's the wild horse running. You need to train it. Set a timer. Work for 25 minutes with complete focus. When your mind wanders, notice it and bring it back. That's the glass of water. That's the discipline. Maybe you're trying to get healthy, but your mind keeps telling you, just one more cookie. Just skip the gym today. Just one more episode instead of going for a walk. That's the undisciplined mind destroying your goals. Train it. Make a rule. Follow it. No negotiations with yourself. Maybe you're trying to learn something new, a skill, a language, an instrument. But after a few days, your mind gets bored and wants something easier, something more entertaining. That's when most people quit. But that's exactly when you need to hold the glass steady. Bring your mind back, again and again. Here's what the ancient philosopher Lao Tzu knew 2,500 years ago. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. You don't need to master the world. You need to master your own mind. And the good news? It's not about being perfect. It's about bringing your mind back every time it wanders. The glass will spill sometimes. The horse will run sometimes. Your mind will wander sometimes. That's not failure. That's normal. Discipline isn't about never getting distracted. Discipline is about returning to focus again and again and again. Here's your challenge. Right now, today, choose one thing you've been unable to focus on. One goal you keep abandoning. One task your mind keeps pulling you away from. For the next 7 days, commit to it with complete focus. Just 7 days. Set a specific time. Eliminate distractions. And when your mind wanders, which it will, notice it and bring it back. Like holding a glass of water. Like training a wild horse. Because here's the truth Clayton taught Ezra, and I'm teaching you. A disciplined mind is stronger than talent, more reliable than luck, and more valuable than intelligence. Your mind is the wild horse. Are you going to let it run you off a cliff? Or are you going to train it to take you exactly where you want to go? Before you go, I need something from you. If this story lit a fire in you, if it made you realize your undisciplined mind has been holding you back, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment below. Tell me, What's the one thing your mind keeps pulling you away from? What are you committing to focus on for the next 7 days? Let's build a community of people who are mastering their minds instead of being mastered by them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Every single day, the Cosmic Sage brings you stories that'll help you master yourself. Hit that like button. Share this with someone whose mind is running wild. This is the Cosmic Sage, reminding you that your mind is either your greatest tool or your worst enemy. Ezra Cole spent 19 years letting his wild mind destroy his potential. 3 days with Clayton Marsh taught him how to train it, and that training changed everything. The ancient philosopher Plato said, "The first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself." Your mind is powerful, incredibly powerful, but power without discipline is destruction. Train your mind, hold the glass steady, break the wild horse, and watch how your entire life transforms. The distractions will always be there. The hawk will always screech. The world will always demand your attention. But you have the power to bring your mind back to what matters. That's discipline. That's mastery. That's freedom. Until tomorrow, friends, master your mind, or it will master you. The choice is yours.